always thought I knew everything about my wife, Emily. We'd been married for 5 years, built a life full of love and trust, or so I believed. But sometimes, the darkest secrets hide right in front of you, waiting for a moment to shatter everything you thought was true. One evening, after a long day at work, Emily left her phone unattended on the kitchen counter. Without thinking much, my curiosity got the better of me. As I reached for my own phone, I noticed her device lit up with notifications from a group chat titled, "Without Alex." My heart skipped a beat. Alex is my name. Why would there be a chat excluding me? I tapped the screen to open it, expecting maybe some harmless banter or a surprise plan for me. But as I scrolled through the messages, my world began to unravel. My mother-in-law was in the chat, asking Emily to become a surrogate mother for her friend. Not just that, she was urging Emily to spend a night with my own brother-in-law while I was away at work. My hands trembled as I read further. The messages revealed that they had already celebrated the pregnancy the day before, without even telling me. My heart sank deeper with every word. It was betrayal at a level I had never imagined. I felt a cold wave of disbelief wash over me. How could they keep something so monumental a secret? How could Emily betray me so utterly? I grabbed my bag, my mind racing. I couldn't stay there. I had to get away from the lies and the deception. Without saying a word, I packed a few essentials and vanished into the night, leaving behind the home I once thought was safe. The days that followed my disappearance were the hardest I had ever faced. I stayed with a close friend's place, trying to make sense of the betrayal that had blindsided me. Every time my phone buzzed, I hesitated before checking, unsure if I was ready to face the storm waiting for me. Then it happened. The first letter from my lawyer arrived at Emily's house. I had decided that silence wouldn't fix this, and if she was going to betray our marriage, I would take control of my life back. Filing for divorce was not an easy decision, but it was the only way to protect myself from further hurt. That same day, my phone exploded with missed calls and messages. 120 missed calls to be exact, all from my mother-in-law. At first, I ignored them. Why would I answer? She was part of the conspiracy after all. But then, a message came that stopped me cold. "Your wife is in the emergency room." My heart stopped. Despite everything, a part of me still cared. I rushed to the hospital, emotions tangled between anger, hurt, and a strange sense of worry. What had happened to Emily? Why was she there? And what would I find when I walked through those doors? The sterile smell of the hospital and the hurried footsteps of the staff were a harsh contrast to the chaos in my mind. As I waited, flashes of the group chat, the lies, and the betrayal flooded my thoughts. Could I forgive her? Could I even begin to? As I sat in the cold, sterile waiting room, the doors to the emergency room finally opened. A nurse approached me with a solemn look and said, "Mr. Alex, your wife is stable now. You can see her, but the doctor wants to speak with you first." My mind raced. What could have possibly landed her here? Was it related to the pregnancy they had secretly celebrated? My thoughts were interrupted as Dr. Harris, a calm but serious woman, stepped forward. "Alex, your wife was admitted due to complications from the surrogate pregnancy," she explained. "It's a risky process, especially when it's done in secrecy without proper medical supervision or consent. We're monitoring her closely." Hearing this, a mixture of relief and anger surged through me. Relief that Emily was alive. Anger that she had risked everything without telling me. involving herself in something so dangerous and deceitful. Later, when I finally saw Emily lying pale on the hospital bed, I searched her eyes for any sign of remorse. Instead, I saw deep fatigue, physical and emotional. As I sat beside her, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Sarah, Emily's close friend, and the one for whom Emily was carrying the baby. "I never wanted you to find out like this, Alex. We thought it was the best choice for everyone." Her words felt hollow and dismissive. What was best for everyone? Certainly not for me. But what struck me most was the silent pressure from my mother-in-law, the woman who should have been on my side but instead had orchestrated this betrayal. Her role was clearer now. She had manipulated Emily into this scheme, turning family ties into a weapon. My world was crumbling faster than I could process. This wasn't just about cheating or secrets anymore. It was a betrayal that tore apart the foundation of trust, love, and family. After Emily was discharged from the hospital, I insisted on having a serious conversation with her. The weight of the betrayal, the lies, and the dangerous secret surrogacy hung heavily between us. I needed to hear the truth from her, face to face. In the quiet of our living room, I looked directly into her eyes and asked, "Why didn't you tell me? How could you agree to something like this without even discussing it with me?" Emily's voice trembled as she tried to explain. "It wasn't supposed to be like this, Alex. My mother kept pushing me, saying it was just a favor for Sarah, that it wouldn't be a big deal. I felt trapped and scared to lose everyone." Her words stirred a painful mix of anger and sympathy inside me. I realized that this betrayal wasn't just about deceit, but about pressure and manipulation from people I once trusted. The very people who should have supported our marriage had torn it apart from within. Then came the hardest part, learning that my brother-in-law had been involved as well. The thought of someone from my own family crossing that line was unbearable. "How could you spend a night with him?" I asked, voice breaking. Emily lowered her eyes. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought if I did this once it would be over, but it only made everything worse." I felt my world collapse. The person I loved had been caught in a web of lies and painful decisions none of us were prepared for. As I sat there, trying to absorb the truth, I knew one thing for sure. This marriage, no matter how much I wanted it to survive, was no longer what it used to be. The following days brought no peace. I sent the divorce papers to Emily, making it clear that I couldn't continue living in a marriage built on such deep betrayal. The letter was a cold but necessary step, one that I hoped would finally bring clarity and closure to a relationship that had spiraled out of control. When Emily and her family received the papers, the atmosphere changed drastically. Suddenly, the people who had laughed behind my back were pleading for a second chance, blaming circumstances and misunderstandings. But my mind was made up. I needed to protect myself from further pain. Despite the emotional turmoil, the hardest part was the countless calls and messages I received, especially from my mother-in-law. She bombarded me with desperate pleas, apologies, and threats, trying to manipulate me into dropping the case. One message stood out. "If you go through with this, you'll regret it forever. You're tearing this family apart." Her words, meant to scare, only strengthened my resolve. This was no longer just about a cheating wife or a secret surrogacy. It was about reclaiming my dignity and standing up against those who had conspired against me. As I sat alone one evening, surrounded by the silence of an empty house, I realized something important. I had been a victim But I was no longer willing to be powerless. I was going to fight, not just for myself, but for the truth. Just when I thought the worst was behind me, my phone started ringing relentlessly. Within minutes, I had over a dozen missed calls and numerous texts, from strangers and familiar numbers alike. Confused and wary, I answered one of the calls. It was Sarah, Emily's friend, the woman for whom Emily had been a surrogate. "Alex," she said nervously, "there's something you need to know. Emily's not just pregnant. There's more to this than anyone realized." My heart raced. What else could be hidden beneath this tangled mess? Before I could ask more, another call came in, this time from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was hesitant but urgent. "Alex, this is Mark, your brother-in-law's close friend. I have to tell you the truth. What you know is just the surface. There's been deception, cover-ups, things that could change everything." The days that followed were filled with whispered phone calls and half-truths. Piece by piece, I started to uncover a web of secrets bigger than I had ever imagined. One that involved not only Emily and her friend, but several people I once trusted implicitly. The shock wasn't just in the betrayal itself. It was in realizing how deeply I had been kept in the dark, like a pawn in someone else's twisted game. The more I learned, the heavier the weight on my chest grew. Friends I thought I could trust had been conspiring against me. My wife, once the center of my world, was now the source of my deepest wounds. Each new revelation felt like another crack in the foundation of my life. I struggled with anger and sorrow, wrestling with memories of happier times and the brutal reality of the present. The betrayal wasn't just about the surrogacy or the secret nights. It was about the erosion of trust, respect, and the very bond that had held us together. At the same time, my mind was haunted by the image of Emily in the hospital bed, fragile, scared, and caught in a situation that none of us had fully understood until it was too late. It was clear that the family dynamics had poisoned everything. The people I expected to protect our marriage instead broke it apart. I realized I needed to accept the truth and move forward, no matter how painful. This journey wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about reclaiming my identity and finding peace amidst the chaos. The final chapter of this painful saga came quicker than I expected. After weeks of silence, the inevitable confrontation with Emily's family took place. I received an unexpected phone call from my mother-in-law, her voice softer, but still laced with guilt and desperation. "Alex, we never meant for this to happen like this. Please reconsider the divorce, for the family's sake." But I had already crossed a line. The trust was shattered beyond repair. Her words, once comforting, now felt hollow. The love I once had for Emily had been replaced by a cautious numbness, and the realization that some wounds simply don't heal overnight. Not long after, Emily sent me a message, short, honest, and surprisingly calm. "I'm sorry, Alex. I never wanted to hurt you. I hope you find happiness." That was the closure I needed. Walking away was the hardest decision of my life, but it was also the bravest. I packed my things once again, not out of anger this time, but with a quiet determination to rebuild my life on my own terms. The calls from my lawyer confirmed the divorce was finalized, and as I stood outside the courthouse, I felt a strange mixture of relief and sorrow. The marriage was over, but the future was mine to shape. This experience taught me that betrayal can come from the closest of places, and sometimes the people we love most are capable of the deepest wounds. But it also taught me resilience, the power to rise, to heal, and to start anew. I walked away not as a broken man, but as someone who had learned the hard way what it means to protect his own heart. And with that, a new chapter began.